Alright everyone, welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech video. This time we're going to try out competitive EDH with yet another new commander. Now previously I tried to do one with the also similarly restrictive Cody, the 5-color commander, where you had almost a cascade but for just instants and sorceries, and you couldn't play permanent spells, so it was very difficult, and I tried to do my best to make a competitive EDH deck, but I just felt that in the end it would need more time, we would need more cards to fool around with, and then just see a month or two from now where we are. But Galizeth Prismari I think is less restrictive, although it does suffer from a similar problem. What we have here is a 4-mana, blue and red, 3/4 legendary Elder Dragon with flying, and whenever Galizeth Prismari enters the battlefield we create a treasure token. Also, artifacts we control have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and we can spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell, so there's the restriction. It's what makes Galizeth a poor man's Urza. If you're using Urza in competitive EDH, you probably know that Urza is not only a way to produce mana off of zero-costed artifacts that don't normally tap for mana, but he's also just a great way to win the game if you're able to generate infinite mana with his activated ability, where you can pay 5 mana and then exile the top card of your deck, and then play that until end of turn, and you can do that however many times you want to, and then win with something like a Thassa's Oracle. We're kinda gonna do that here. Galizeth is pretty much like a blue-red Urza deck. It has its restrictions, but by far this is probably the best commander option if you're looking to play competitively from this set, or at least from what I've seen. And I always like the challenge, of making newer and better decks out of brand new commanders. So here we have the first section of the deck, our counterspell package. We have 10 of them. We have 10 counterspells in here. It's not even all of them. But here we have Pact of Negation, Flusterstorm, Mental Misstep, Miscast. Very good newer counterspell. You counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3 mana, which is a lot in competitive EDH earlier on in the game. Then we have Swan Song, we have Delay, then we have Mana Drain, we have Fierce Guardianship, we have Force of Negation, and then we have Force of Will. So we have a ton of answers, very quick answers. That's what we fall back on. We fall back on our answers and just play some solid control. And while this deck isn't as easy to win with the combos, being able to tap those artifacts for mana and spending it on anything, we are going to have a soft lock in here that's going to make it easier to just play the control game and then just eventually win by slowly drawing into our combo pieces. And then we have some draw cards in here. We have Mishra's Bauble. We can sacrifice it, look at the top card of target player's library, and then we draw a card at the beginning of the next upkeep, but you know why this card's in here. It's a 0-mana artifact that we can also tap for mana. We have Arkham's Aster Blade, fantastic card for 1 mana, 1 snow mana. It enters the battlefield, we draw a card. Essentially, that's all we need it for. We can tap it to produce mana too. We have Brainstorm, always useful. We have Gitaxian Probe, Mystic Remora, Ponder, and then we have Preordain. We have Sensei's Divining Top. We have Baral, Chief of Compliance, since this is going to be more of a instant and sorcery heavy deck compared to a normal Urza competitive EDH build. I find that it's also good to have Baral in here just to make those spells cheaper, and we have a way to draw cards off of countering spells. And then we have Jace Vryn's Prodigy, also another very good card if you're playing more of an instant and sorcery heavy deck. It provides you with some way of drawing cards. You do have to discard, same with Baral, but I think it's well worth it because you're able to flip him. You do get a way off of his -3 to cast a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard this turn. And then we have Heuristic Study just to get some more card draw. Always nice if we can do this in competitive where our opponents are really wanting to save their mana. And we have a bunch of wheel effects. We have a ton of these. We have Time Twister, we have Wheel of Fortune, we have the newer card Wheel of Misfortune. Not always as effective because players could opt out of this. They could just choose 0 and they won't have to discard and then draw cards, which is kind of what we want it for, but still, at the very least, it's going to act as card draw for us. Then we have Windfall, and then we have Echo of Aeons. So it's kind of like another Time Twister. So we have all those. We really want those in here because, as I said, this isn't going to be super combo heavy where we win off of combos. We are going to have to use good control and we are going to want to lock out our opponents. And then we have some graveyard synergy cards in here. We have Tormod's Crypt. It's a 0-cost artifact. It can get rid of a graveyard, but it can also tap for mana too. We have Snapcaster Mage, just a flashback an instant or sorcery card. We have Underworld Breach. We have Mizzix's Mastery, so if we have a ton of mana, we can overload it, and then we exile a bunch of instants and sorceries from our graveyard, and then we get to cast copies of them. We have Past in Flames, not quite as good, but it could be in certain situations. Each instant and sorcery card in our graveyard gains flashback until end of turn, but really just in here to go along with the instant and sorcery theme. And then we have some lock cards in here. This is really what I'm talking about. Worst case scenario, we just fall back on this plan. We have Hull Breacher and Narset, Parter of Veils. That's really why we need Time Twister, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, Windfall, and Echo of Aeons, just to make these two cards even better. Again, these are not going to win us the game, but they're going to put us in a very good position going forward in the game. And then going forward, we have some lands in here. We have Ancient Tomb, Arid Mesa, Bloodstained Mire, City of Brass, Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Fiery Islet, so we can tap it, pay a mana, and sacrifice it to draw a card. We have Flooded Strand, Forbidden Orchard, Gemstone Caverns just to get off to a quick start. We have Mana Confluence, Misty Rainforest, Polluted Delta, Prismatic Vista, Scalding Tarn, Shivan Reef, Snow-Covered Island. We have about 9 of them, and we have 1 Snow-Covered Mountain, and this is for Arkham's Astrblade. And then we have Steam Vents, we have Training Center, we have Volcanic Island to finish off the lands. And then we have some mana in here. We have Mana Producers, we have Chrome Mox, Everflowing Chalice, Jeweled Lotus, fantastic new addition to any competitive deck, so long as it really works with your commander, and I think this one really does. Even if it doesn't, it can tap to provide 1 mana. We have Lotus Petal, kind of the same thing. If we don't want to sacrifice it, we don't have to. We can always tap it for 1 mana while it's on the field. We have Mana Crypt, Mox Diamond, we have Mox Opal, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, very good creature in red. This is probably the biggest reason why Galizeth would have an advantage over Urza, if any at all. Personally, I think Urza is going to be the better option for competitive, but with red you have access to cards like Dockside Extortionist, where you can get a bunch of those treasure tokens and then tap them for the mana that you need. We have Grim Monolith, we have Izzet Signet, Talisman of Creativity, and here's yet another one. We have Burgi, God of Storytelling. So whenever we cast a spell, we add 1 red mana, so this is something you can go off with pretty quickly. I already mentioned Hull Breacher, of course. We have Jeska's Will, another fantastic newer addition for competitive EDH. You add 1 red mana for each card in target opponent's hand, and you exile the top 3 cards of your library. You get to play them this turn. And then we have Urza, Lord High Artificer. Kind of funny how this deck works. You can win with Urza very easily, and I'll talk about that here in a second. As you would with Galizeth, I think he's a lot more flexible. Even though you can only tap an artifact for blue mana, that's still good. His activated ability there, though, is 5 mana. Shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Just fantastic. And then we have Spellskite as a form of protection. Also great because we can later on tap it for mana. And then we have some removal in here, not a bunch, but we have Chain of Vapor, we have Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast, which can also be counter spells, but I really like them in here because they can do either. They can be removal for blue permanents, or they can counter blue spells. And then we have Cyclonic Rift, of course, because what instant and sorcery deck is complete without one of the best spells ever made? And then we have some tutors, just to make it easier to get to our combo pieces. We have Gamble, we have Mystical Tutor, we have Goblin Engineer to get to our Isochron Scepter quickly. We have Merchant Scroll to get to a blue instant quickly. We have Muddle the Mixture. We can transmute for an Isochron Scepter. It's also a counter spell. Then we have Reshape, so we can then sacrifice an artifact and then easily get to whatever artifact that we're looking for. Then we have Transmute Artifact to kind of do the same but even better. And then we have Fabricate, straight up just a tutor for artifacts. Then we have Spellseeker. We search for an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 2 or less. We reveal it, put it into our hand. So that can be a transmute artifact. It can be just about most of these. Fantastic card. We have War of Invention. And it goes without saying, for a lot of these you don't even have to pay into X. You can just straight up get a 0 cost artifact from your deck. And then we get to our win cons. They're really just to talk about them. I've already talked about most here. We have the Dramatic Reversal Isochron Scepter combo. And kind of what we do here is we just get infinite mana. We ideally want to have Urza. If we have Urza, that's straight up just a win because we just deck ourselves out, play whatever we want, and then win by playing either Thassa's Oracle, or if we don't have Thassa's Oracle, we have Jace Wielder of Mysteries. That's really how we win here, is by decking ourselves out. It's not super creative, I know, but this deck has its limitations. It makes it really hard to play a lot of everything else while also staying competitive. And I also have the Grim Monolith Power Artifact combo, because that is kind of the same thing as having a Dramatic Reversal in Isochron Scepter. Although it only provides us with infinite colorless mana, we can also similarly use that mana and funnel it into Urza's second ability there. So anyway, this is still very much a prototype. I don't really expect this to be that competitive compared to some of the better ones in the format. It's interesting and I like fooling around with newer commander options. I do think that restriction on how you're able to use that mana holds it back quite a bit, and you also don't have that mana sink win con ability like you do with Urza, so it's definitely nowhere near that competitive, but still something worth checking out. As always, the link to my decks are in the description of just about every video I make. This one is on Moxfield, so go check it out. I've only just recently joined Moxfield, so if you want to follow me there, go ahead and do that. That's where I'm going to be posting all of my new decks, and if you're following me over there, you get to see the decks that I'm making videos about before I make the videos. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future ones. Void here signing off. See you all next time.